Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Nate's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to listen to us as you travel, we've got a 24/7 listen line, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. Captain John Regan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Regan.
Good morning, Vincent.
Hey, John. What a great lesson plan you have for us today. Absolutely brilliant, as usual. No exaggeration, and I'm really looking forward to it. I wanted to share something with you, though. Over the weekend, I had a farming adventure traveling towards Chicago, pulling a really heavy load. And in my mind, I've noticed more aggressive drivers than ever before, especially out in the St. Louis area coming back Saturday night. And there must have been a game, but 9:30 or so, right outside of St. Louis on these merging lanes and construction. The operators of these vehicles, these little vehicles, were just weaving in and out, cutting everybody off. It was making a dangerous situation even more dangerous. And that just tells me that it's more of the me first attitude that we are developing here in this country. And to underscore that, I did something I don't normally do. I was with our son, and we stopped at a restaurant and for a quick hamburger. And we had a very nice, polite waitress, and she was this middle-aged gal. And I said, do you find that people are a little more uptight, a little more aggressive than they used to be? And she said she's been doing this for 12 years. And the answer is absolutely correct. They are becoming a little more aggressive. And the discussion led to, she would come up to the table and say, "Hi, may I take your order?" And they'd be on their cell phone, and they'd ignore her. I was like, wait, just hold her hand up. Wait, I'm not done talking to this person on the phone. I'll be with you, and I'll tell you what to get me, as soon as I'm done. And it's just impolite, and it's rude. And it holds everybody up. It holds everybody that's in line waiting to get a table. It holds the waitress up, holds the cooks up, and it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. So that's the kind of stuff that she saw and related to us. And it relates to the family, and it relates to the values, and it relates to how we're still this me first, and we're not getting any better. It's getting worse. What do you think, John? Are you seeing anything like this?
Way too much. And I remember 15 years ago today, getting on the road to go to work after 9/11 had happened. And people were nice. They were polite on the road. They were driving the speed limit. But that only lasted a week or two, and then things got back to normal here in Dallas. And unfortunately, manners have degraded ever since.
Let me see if I've got this right. So you're saying that during this turmoil, during this period of uncertainty. Are we being attacked? Are we under threats? People were nice to each other, but then when they realized that, I guess it looks like it's going to be okay and there aren't going to be any attacks, that they resumed to their me first attitude. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. It was nice to see how we did treat each other for that short period of time. And I would expect that whenever whatever event happens, the way Americans are, probably the first day or two or three, most people will be pretty nice and polite. There's always those that take advantage of a power outage or something to go and break into stores and loot, but that's a minority of people. Unfortunately, as time goes on and people realize it's not getting any better, that's when things are going to get much worse.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed the same thing, when you go to a funeral and if you go to the visitation, everybody's quiet and everybody's polite and, hold the door for you. But after the visitation, it's back to me first again. So, John, you want to share with us where we're going today?
Well, last time we didn't have a chance to get to a lot of the preparedness-related things that I'd slated. So we're going to get through that, and then hour two, for the most part, is a lot of spy tech type things that happened since then. I do want to just remind everybody that I will be speaking on October 1st at the Hear the Watchman conference. It's in Knoxville, Tennessee this time, and I get to lead off on Saturday morning. And then right behind me is L.A. Marzulli. That's going to be a very interesting morning there. And I know a lot of people just plain can't make the trip, but they have a virtual conference option now. Rather than do a live stream, which has some issues of its own, they're going to basically just go ahead and record the presentation and then shortly thereafter, for example, I'm speaking at 9 o'clock in the morning. My presentation will be available at 12:30 that day, and you can get the entire conference right now for $29.99. After September 15th, that is going up to $39.99, which is still a great price. And you'll still be able to watch the recordings for 30 days after the event. So, like I say, if you can't make it, really super stuff that you can get for a pretty low price. The whole conference leads off with Coach Dave Daubenmeier. He's really great at firing people up, and he's followed by Anthony Patch, which he gets into things that involve CERN and supercomputers. So this is not just a boring Bible study. It gets into some very deep and interesting things, and I'm looking forward to be there, and I'm hoping some of you can make it, and look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, and if you have a chance, maybe you guys can, whoever attends, can grab a bite to eat with you after your presentation that evening. Wouldn't that be fun? It always is when we do it. And I'm right now. I'm looking up the distance to Knoxville, Tennessee, from here. See if it's possible for me to make it. And that's. Well,
I looked at your schedule, and you're going to be in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm going to be in Kansas City, and John, when I went to Alabama, I was told, don't talk about the space program. don't talk about the space program at the at the convention center because there are a lot of NASA people there, and they'll take exception to my views on the moon landing. And I just don't believe, I do not believe we put some men on the top of a rocket and blasted off and orbited the moon and landed on the moon and walked around on the moon and got back in and blasted back off and came home. I don't believe it. I believe we sent some rockets up, and I believe we put some satellites up, but I don't believe we put men through the Van Allen radiation belt, walked around on the moon, and came home safely. I flat out don't believe it because I saw the pictures at a NASA exhibit in Richmond, Virginia, and I was looking at them, and a NASA uniformed NASA employee was there, and I challenged her that they were fakes, and she ultimately admitted that they were shot on the stage. So why would they do that? Why would they shoot them on the stage? And then later on, I met the photographer who took those pictures. So I am absolutely positively convinced that the whole thing was faked, and for a lot of reasons. And that's one of the things I'm probably going to talk about in Kansas City. My connecting of the dots at a personal level. So where would you like to go from here, John?
Well, first up, I've got necessary distance. And the article is Vegetable Seed Saving Handbook. And talked about this on air before, but this has a nice little table in the isolation distance, how far you need to have these plants apart in order to get true seeds. Because when you're dealing with open pollinated seeds that you can keep on using, unlike these Terminator seeds that don't work, or the hybrids that will not be true. Some of these are, fairly close, but something like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cabbage, those things need to be a mile apart.
Mm-hmm. Parsley, Parsley and, heck, onions. Onions, and depending on which table you're looking at, onions could be a mile apart. Who does that? Who has a mile? So, John, you've got to get together with all your neighbors and even maybe outside the neighborhood saying, hey, y'all, what are you doing? What are you growing? We can't do that because I'm growing that. I was here first. We'll be right back. TheFinancialStateOfTheUnion.com. John, please continue.
Well, a lot of interesting entries in this table on how far you need to have plants in order to avoid cross-pollination and keeping your varieties true. Corn is 2 miles. Carrots are half a mile. Looking at lettuce is an easy one. That's just 25 feet. Mm-hmm. But it really points out that there's a lot more to raising food than just sticking a seed in the ground and waiting for a mature plant that you can eat. It's once that supply chain's no longer there, you're going to have to be able to save your seeds so that you can plant the next year. And what this points out is it takes a little bit of planning just to do that, plus the skills of knowing how to save the seeds, because a lot of times you basically choose the plants that you're going to do that with, set them aside, and there's some things you can do to protect them from being cross-pollinated. And it's a serious thing. It's really a matter of life and death.
Mm-hmm. And I was traveling in Illinois over the weekend, and I noticed a lot of corn on both sides of the highway, and way closer than 2 miles apart, way closer. So I think it's really important that you look at this table. And if you'd like to look at the table, just go to thefinancialstateoftheunion.com and look at today's post, and there's a link, distances. And you might want to print it out and keep it, because it's nice to have all these things saved electronically, but I can tell you that I've saved some things electronically and they seem to get lost. But so you may want to have a 3-ring notebook and print these out, punch the holes in the paper, and keep this, because you may not be able to get back to your electronic media. Yeah, great post. Garlic, a mile. Garlic chives, a mile. And did I see 5 miles? Spinach, 5 miles.
Yeah, beets are 5 miles. So it's and like you say with the corn there, a lot of the commercial crops, they're not raising plants for seed. They're just raising the plants to sell to market. That's the way our modern agriculture works. So the seed companies are obviously aware of this, and wherever they are raising their seed crop at, you can be sure that they're following these so that they have a good product to sell.
Yeah, and if you look at the method of pollination in this table, you'll see that, for example, cantaloupe is pollinated with insects. Corn pollinated by the wind. So there's a difference there. And looking at what else? Swiss chard pollinated by the wind, and spinach is pollinated by the wind. So the ones that are pollinated by the wind seem to, there's a much farther distance of separation if you want to keep your heirloom seeds intact. So great table, John. Thanks so much for bringing that to our attention.
Well, you just kind of brought up the flip side of this, too. When it says insects, a lot of times it's referring to honeybees. So they have several miles that they can fly, which is one of the reasons you have the cross-pollination problem. But you may want to make sure that you have the bees to do the pollination with, so that behooves you to become a beekeeper as well. And that's another skill set to learn. And then you have to decide what type of hive you want to have. And there's, some that maximize honey, some that maximize wax, and it's considerations for what's to come.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to call Jeffrey Maddox and see if he can do a broadcast with us. And we need a pickle expert. We need someone to teach us how to make pickles. So if that's you, give us a call. 417-462-1105. Thanks so much. Class, we're at the financialstateoftheunion.com at the news tab. And if you'd like to follow along in class, that's the address, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com. And please click on the news tab. John?
Next up is when trucks stop running.
Oh, man.
And at the bottom of this is a link to a YouTube video that's an interview from Chris Martinson's channel, and is interviewing a transportation expert, specifically ground logistics in this. And I don't get a chance to listen to a lot of them. This one I tuned in because my background with military air command was more air logistics, so I was wanting to get the perspective of somebody that was actually in operations for this part of the chain. And when you look at the whole chain, everything is energy. Starting at the production side of things, the raw materials, those have to be either mined or raised and then transported. And then wherever that facility is, they're processed, and then sometimes that's just the start of the processing. Sometimes that it's just like getting ore and getting the metal as an output that then goes into other processes. So then there's the transportation to those next processes, and somewhere along the line a product gets made, and then those products have to be shipped. And the way our world is now, and we'll talk about the Hanjin bankruptcy next hour, quite often these products are transported by surface ship to get to the country of destination. And then once they're there, then it's a matter of rail and truck getting them to the cities, and then it's further broken down to delivery trucks that get them to the stores and eventually to the customers. So it's a complex process, and when things don't work right, that's when all kinds of interesting things happen. So just a few of the things pulled out of this interview. If, or might say when, trucks stop running, within a week, grocery stores would be out of items that are usually delivered many times a day, and the shelves would be empty. You look at hospitals, pharmacies, factories, all these businesses get several deliveries a day. They'd be running out very quickly. By the second day, there's panic and hoarding. Restaurants and pharmacies would close. ATMs would be out of money. Construction would stop. Of course, when there's no work to be done, people would be laid off, which just further aggravates the problem. Within 2 weeks, clean water supplies would run out. And this is kind of holding everything else the same. Of course, if it's a EMP attack or a CME from the sun that takes out the power grid, then a lot of things happen even quicker than that. And there's, really, no going get back. And I probably say too much, ready or not, here it comes. And whatever you have and wherever you are, that's what you're going to have to base your future on.
Mm-hmm. John, once a week, the trash guy comes out our way, and those who decide to pay for trash pickup have trash collection. And this company picks up the trash and hauls it to a landfill. And one of the things that will happen is that'll stop. The trash pickup will stop. And I remember in Philadelphia, there was a trash strike, and trash was piled up on the sidewalks, and it was as tall as a person. And Philadelphia at that time was known as Filth-adelphia because of so much trash not being picked up. So we really don't think about the diseases that would be running rampant as a result of rotting foodstuffs, refuse, and so forth. We think that everything's going to be okay, but just think about the trash, the mountains of trash. And when my son and I were heading out toward Illinois, the land was flat, and as we were approaching Chicago, the land was flat, and there was a mountain off to the left, and I said, "There's a trash mountain there." And I showed it to our son, and sure enough, that's what it was. It was a mountain of trash covered with dirt, green grass on top of this mountain, this great big hill it's huge, absolutely huge, and I'm sure that's where the cities are dumping their trash. So, trash, what happens to it? It just gets relocated. And when you drive out by St. Louis, There's several mountains of trash out there too, right next to a nuclear dump, radioactive dump from the bombs that we made to keep everybody safe, nuclear explosions, detonations. So yeah, it's a big problem you're talking about, John. And then what about potable water? What about the fact that most water treatment plants have, on average, 2 weeks worth of water treatment chemicals like chlorine? What happens when the trucks stop running and there's no chlorine? So on average, 2 weeks of chlorine to keep the water from having a high bacteria counts. How about that? So there are a lot of things to think about, and you and I have been talking for years, advising people that they should be prepared for whatever comes our way, making sure you have what you need before you need it, and that's really what preparedness is. So clean water, freedom from trash. What about the energy needs that you have? I mean, what are you going to do? Most people are thinking that they've got to get in their car and make sure they can get out. I think what we might want to do is stay home. Depending on where you are, you might want to stay home when things get to this point. And what would it take to have an emergency like this when the trucks stop running? It could be an earthquake. And as you said, a solar eruption. It could be a nuclear catastrophe. We could be attacked. It could be rain. A massive amount of rain can stop the trucks from running. As a matter of fact, I was trying to get to Kentucky weeks ago, and the rain, just the rain, prevented us from getting to Kentucky because of the flooding in St. Louis. So whenever there's a lot of rain, St. Louis floods, the roads flood, and you can't get through. So keep that in mind, class. John?
Well, the good news about the trash problem is that, yes, there would be a lot of trash initially. The article points out we generate 685,000 tons a day. But if there's not new product going out to the stores, you're not going to have new trash. So there will be a trash buildup, but it just doesn't keep on piling up because there's nothing left to pile up. It's kind of like my point about these people that are so big about stockpiling toilet paper and they're not paying attention to food. Well, if you're not getting food in, the toilet paper doesn't matter.
Nice way of putting it. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, I've got 3 related articles, slaves, and more energy slaves. And this is something that we typically don't consider either because we've grown up with energy, and we've had this for a long time, cheap, abundant energy that we didn't even pay attention that much to how much we used. And this is pretty much all the what was considered fossil fuels, the petroleum, the coal, and the natural gas, for everything from powering our vehicles to generating electricity. And when you look at what that's hidden from us, if you had people having to do the work of the energy, it turns into quite a problem if you're wanting to try and keep the same lifestyle. The first article talks a bit about when BBC ran a test, and people using things in the house didn't know that they were unplugged from the grid, and there were like 100 bicycles next door with people pedaling to provide energy. And so, when they wanted to do things like make their tea and make some toast, it took 24 peddlers to heat the oven and 11 cyclists just to make 2 slices of toast.
Yep. I remember going to some preparedness expos years ago, and they had some guys with bicycles and hooked up to an alternator, and And they were saying, this is really cool. You can just hop on this bike and, generate electricity. And it's a great way to go. But what they didn't tell people was that 1 horsepower equals 746 watts. 746 watts. So it would take the work of 1 horse, not a person, a horse, to generate 1 horsepower. So I don't know if there's a conversion of cyclists to a horsepower, but I'm sure it would take a bunch of cyclists to equal 1 horsepower. And so what's a horsepower? Well, that would be a small well pump. A small well pump would consume the energy of 746 watts. Captain John Regan and I will be right back. Or 7.5 100-watt light bulbs would equal the work that 1 horse can do. Captain John Regan's with us, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com, and John's been telling us about pedaling your way to energy independence. John, please continue.
Now, the first slave link talks about that a healthy individual on this bicycle can generate enough electricity to power a 100-watt light bulb for breaking up into hour segments. So if you look at basically an 8-hour day, then the equivalent human energy that's stored in 1 barrel of oil would take a human 8.6 years to produce. So that's quite a lot of energy in a small space. In the second slave link, this gets into where we were not so long ago. For 1950, the world population of 2.25 billion people, that averaged out 38 energy slaves per person. And the report that's below that, for 100 energy slaves working 24 hours a day in the United States from the mid-'80s. The report came out there in '87. And the third link has some more recent information, and it's saying that for, at that point last year, 296 million people in the United States used 94 quadrillion BTUs of energy. So if you put that into human terms, that's 147 energy slaves working 24/7. Now, obviously, people can't work 24/7. So, and if you don't mind, I'm going to round this to 150 energy slaves just to make the math easy. So if you just have your slaves working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, that means you need 300 energy slaves. And that, again, that's per person. So for a couple, that would be 600 energy slaves. For a family of 4, it'd be 1,200. And obviously, you're not going to have that many slaves once the grid goes down. It's going to result in a big cutback in what you're used to in lifestyle. And not all of these energy slaves are found in your home. This also includes the supply chain. So everything that got what you use to you is included into that. So just taking into account the work that you do for raising your food, doing your laundry, things of that nature, might be a small amount, but everything else that you rely on, that you count on being there cheaply, just pull it off the shelf or click on the internet and have it delivered. That's where the rest of those slaves are. Vincent?
John, it reminds me of a book I read many years ago, and I'm going to recommend this book as homework for those who want to spend about a little less than $13. It's called the long emergency, the long L-O-N-G emergency. And it's surviving the end of oil, climate change, and other converging catastrophes of the 21st century. It's written by James Howard Kunstler, Kunstler. It's a very easy read, and let me just cut to the chase. We used to work in the cities. People would live in the cities, work in the cities. We would manufacture clothing. We'd have employees sitting at the sewing machines, cutting and so forth, making clothes and shoes and whatever else we needed. And some people said, well, shoot, I'd rather have a little more space. Maybe I can move out of the city and drive to work, travel to work, and maybe have a car because gasoline was around 20 cents a gallon. And that's what we did. We moved outside the city. Then we moved further and further and further out. And as we did, we used more and more fuel. And we just wasted all that fuel going back and forth to work. And that's how we got to the suburbs. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcement. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Captain John Regan's with us. Captain John, I don't know if you heard the top of the hour news, but Hillary, her camp is saying that she was dehydrated. She fell down. She needed to be picked up, entering her van. She travels in a black van, actually a couple of black vans, and so she has pneumonia. Her camp also said she has pneumonia. So she was exposing people where she traveled and spoke with infectious pneumonia. And there are images on the internet of her with a catheter. You could see the tube running down her leg, and that kind of explains why, if that's the case, why she won't let anyone in the ladies' room when she's in there. So if you think about it, bladder control, coughing. It seems obvious that these are dots that we can connect now, because if she's coughing that much, she probably would wet her pants, and that would probably make the news very quickly as she travels and speaks in public. So she's wearing these pantsuits to. Many believe she's hiding the catheter tube that's running down her leg, and. Why would she be lying so much? I mean, about everything.
I'm not getting a return.
Oh, yeah, she's healthy. She's just doing fine, except she fell down. Took a couple of people to support her. And if you watch the video of that's available on the internet, you'll find out that her team circles around her so you can't really see too much. It's well engineered for her protection. John, do you have any comments on that? Captain John Regan, are you there? Did we lose Captain John Regan? Did we lose me? Oh, so you're there, John. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was wondering where everybody went.
Yeah. Well, did you hear me talking about Hillary, or did you miss that part?
I missed that part.
Okay. Nathan, did everyone miss that part, or did they hear what I had to say about Hillary? Okay, just you were the only one that missed it, John. Okay, so I mentioned that Hillary was reported to be dehydrated by her team and also have pneumonia, and she fell down, and they had to help her get into her van. And many people have seen the videos and the images of Hillary with what appears to be a catheter tube running down her leg. And, if you think about this cough that she's had, this nonstop cough, I think she has the chemtrail flu because it ends up with pneumonia. My mom got it, my wife got it, I got it. And the symptoms are the same. We didn't wet our pants, but the coughing was very, very similar to what Hillary has. And many people believe she has a catheter with the tube running down her leg, and that's why she won't enter a lady's restroom when she's speaking on the speaking engagement, trying to con more people into thinking that she should be selected as president. That she won't allow anyone else in the ladies' room because they'd probably hear her doing whatever she has to do with this catheter bag. Your thoughts on any of this, John?
Well, I've read from medical professionals that believe she has Parkinson's, and that what we're seeing is the effects of Parkinson's and side effects of the Parkinson's drugs, and that, and also she has vascular dementia. And based on the onset of her problems, she could have just a year left to live.
Yeah, and so is that? I mean, with all the other things that she brings to bear, if she knows this, why would she be doing this? Why would she be so greedy as to force herself on the world with these problems that whatever they are, she knows what they are. She knows what they are, and and we've talked about how greedy politicians are. I mean, it's them first. It's a me first world in the political arena. John, so what do you have for hour number 2?
Well, I've like I said, a lot of this is spy tech type related, and the first one, Death Stick, caught my eye. Believe it or not, a company actually invented this. It's a USB stick that you stick into an ordinary USB port, and within a few seconds it charges up and releases high voltage into the system, which would basically destroy a bunch of electronics there. It costs about $56. And it makes me wonder how we're going to see this device used in the future. Of course, there's nice, using as part of military operation, taking down equipment, but there's everything from disgruntled employees to some of these Marxist troublemakers that we have wandering around, and this probably wouldn't be a problem with a large data center because there's multiple servers. You're just not going to be able to bring everything down with one of these. But as far as individual computers, which can be everything from PC or notebook, televisions. We've got USB ports in cars. This could really cause a lot of havoc in a short amount of time with just a few people.
So, John, let's be clear on what we're talking about. This is a device that is about the size of a thumb drive. One of these USB memory sticks. One of the older styles. They're a little larger. But it's still smaller than the size of a domino, most probably. And allegedly, if you put this into a USB port, it will destroy the device. So what would have a USB port? Well, in front of me, the monitors that I'm looking at all have USB ports on the side of the monitors. All the computers that we're using have USB ports. Most televisions have connections for USB. Most video players, like DVD players, have ports for USB, notebook computers, and so forth. So we're talking about I just thought of something unbelievable, John. What about having a USB charger in the cigarette lighter of an automobile or light truck? We're talking about a massive amount of electricity. I don't know if, depending on how that circuit's wired, whether it would destroy the computers in a vehicle. But there are a lot of devices that use USB. And for example, you go to any classroom, and teacher probably says to the students, "Okay, class, take out your thumb drives and plug them in, and let's look at what you did for homework." Boom. Now, I don't think it would take out the whole network. Now, I didn't experiment with that back in the 1990s. I built a lot of computer laboratories, and I networked a bunch of computers. And some of those networks in the very early days were connected with a coaxial cable, which was daisy-chained from one computer to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So you might have 20-something devices all connected to a server via coaxial cable. And I know that, and I experimented with static electricity. One little spark of static electricity would take down the network. Absolutely. I experimented with it so I could prevent that from happening. And what I did was I used a grounded, shielded coaxial cable, which is, coaxial cable is inherently shielded, and I grounded to an earth ground that shield, and that minimized the effects of what we're talking about. But I think this is a pretty significant topic we're talking about, and it could be something that could damage a lot of electronics. And is it permanent? I believe the kind of damage we're talking about is permanent. And we don't fix electronics anymore, so you wouldn't bring your monitor to the monitor store and say, "Can you fix this? Because it doesn't seem to work anymore." Or, "Can you fix this computer? It doesn't even power up anymore." I don't think we do that. I think or notebooks. I think what we do is we say, let's see, trash day's Thursday. Let's get another computer.
And I'm wondering how many hospital devices now use USBs?
John, that every hospital computer that I've seen hanging on the wall or attached to these workstations that the nurses use, or the ones they roll around. Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's the newest trend in hospital data collection is the iPad or the tablet type that's wireless. And so the nurse or the person helping the nurse or the doctor will come in and say, "Okay, let me just make sure I've got, is this still your date of birth? And you're still living at this address? And is this still your phone number? And is this still your insurance card?" And they tap on the tablet. Now, that wouldn't take the network down if you take the tablet down. But if you put an adapter cable on the micro USB port or the mini USB port on a tablet, and you plug in a USB drive, and you put this device into that connection, yeah, I think that could take the tablet down for sure. But John, what about something that's more common than that? What about these stun guns? You know, it's like a cattle prod, but not on a long stick. I don't have a cattle prod because I don't treat our animals like that. However, there are plenty of stun guns. You can go to any gun show, you can go to any preparedness event, and you'll see for sale these little handheld size of a small flashlight. You push the on-off switch and you hit the button, and it will send out a high voltage charge out these two probes. I think that would do exactly the same thing as what you're talking about with this USB killer device. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us, and I was doing a search on the internet during the break, and yeah, you can kill a computer or electronic devices with a stun gun. And if you happen to get to the circuitry with a stun gun, you can kill electronic devices, cell phones, televisions, tracking devices, most electronic devices with integrated circuits, sometimes called chips. I'm not recommending that you do it. I'm just saying that if your device is hit by one of these stun guns, it absolutely, positively can kill it. So there you have it. Captain John Regan.
And, these computers are working off voltage of 5 volts or less. So it's not a lot of electricity in that regard. And it's still standard practice if you're doing things properly, that if you're working inside a computer, you wear a wrist strap that has a wire that's connected to a ground so that you don't have a static discharge that destroys part of the electronics that you're working on. And again, the way they're so integrated now, you destroy one chip, you got to replace the whole thing. That's
exactly right, because they are wave soldered on the circuit boards. These these microcircuits or these integrated circuits or these surface-mounted devices are wave soldered on the electronic circuit boards, the printed circuit boards. And it's very, very, very difficult to unsolder them. So you're absolutely correct. So, and I remember those days of wearing a strap connected to a long cord with an alligator clip connected to the ground, so that when we worked on computers, that we would not accidentally have like a sweater on, or that would cause a static spark that would run from our finger to the circuit board of the computer. You're absolutely right. And to this day, when you buy a hard drive, it is wrapped in a Mylar anti-static bag. If you get a video card, it's in a Mylar anti-static bag, for those reasons that the device does not get destroyed on its way to the end user who's going to open it and install that device. You're absolutely right.
And it doesn't take voltage that would even necessarily hurt a human. It's just it's like when you get a static spark. You might know when you get hit, but that doesn't affect your body. But these chips, once the high voltage goes through them, it's destroyed the logic gates in them, and that's all she wrote.
Mm-hmm. Right, not repairable. Yeah, what's next?
Gene warfare. We've talked about CRISPR technology quite often, and I've talked about some of the problems with it. And, if you think that John Reagan's just a little far out there, well, this article talks about DARPA addressing this problem, that this CRISPR technology is so cheap and available for changing genes in humans, and I guess any other creature as far as that goes, that they're looking at ways to protect basically soldiers in gene warfare conditions. And that's, I guess really it's up to your imagination what you can do with, what you would call biohacking. There's so many things that your body does that if you went in and just turned off certain genes, could very easily incapacitate a person all the way up to killing them. You could probably induce a heart attack very easy, and unless somebody went in and did some DNA research on that person, it'd probably just be chalked up to natural causes.
It's amazing. Who even thinks this up? Absolutely amazing.
And it's been a while, but I also talked about there's the DNA sequencers out there, which you can create your own DNA sequence for whatever creature you want. And it, in some ways, resembles the progress of computers where, back in the 60s, if you had a computer, you were a big company or a government entity. And then by the 80s, people were having them. And then by today, everybody has one, and they're pretty inexpensive. In fact, you can get some, like the Raspberry Pi for, less than $50. Well, it's kind of the same thing with the DNA sequencers. They went from being expensive, and the price is coming down to where just about anybody can have a DNA sequencer. So in your own garage, you can create whatever program of life that you want with the DNA. And if that doesn't concern you, I don't know what will. Some of these sci-fi movies, there may be more truth than fiction to them.
When our children were growing up, I would allow them to watch television programming, and I said the programming that you're allowed to watch would be history and future history. And future history was that was the term I used for science fiction. And I meant that a lot of what you'll see on science fiction programming is probably coming to our lives sooner than we would think. So history and future history. John, is there any way of protecting ourselves from this technology that you're talking about?
I really am not aware of any. I haven't gone into CRISPR deep enough to see exactly how that has to be introduced into the body. But the discussion is that they are able to change the DNA of a living creature, including the germline, so that any offspring from that point on would have that change in DNA. So I don't know if they introduced by vaccines or airborne, or I'd have to do more research on that.
And I'm reading about deaths as a result of vaccines. So no one in our family is getting any vaccines that we can prevent. Someone saying, "You mind if I give you this jab? It'll protect you from shingles or from whatever diseases that they're trying to allege that these vaccines will protect us from." We're not allowing anyone to inject anything into our bloodstream. Our skin is here to protect us from the elements, from diseases, and from germs and bacteria. But if you bypass the skin and go right into the bloodstream, it's a little tougher. So that's why we have a digestive system to help protect us from some of these bugs. So I'm not interested in getting any vaccines of any kind. I don't care what the reason is.
Besides the genetic payload, you have all the toxins in vaccines.
Yeah, and Dr. Shealy was absolutely right, John. I read a post about a week ago that says it's the electromagnetic radiation, it's the cell phones, it's the toxins in the air, it's the toxins in the food, it's the toxins in the water, and that's how we got to these increasing cancer rates. Cancer rates increasing at an increasing rate. So, yeah, he was absolutely right when he said, yes, it's all of the above. It really is. And he also mentioned that if you live in a city and you're breathing the city air, you're more likely to die earlier because of the noises, the sounds, the traffic, the stress, the pollution, the lifestyle, the people around you smoking, and all of those things, including the fight to get to work in your automobile and the fight to get home with all these crazy drivers. All of those stresses reduce our lifespan. And so I think it's great to be as far away from that as possible. And I'm looking forward to you moving farther and farther away from the big D.
Well, last week, being a holiday, I wasn't on, so I posted a notice that wouldn't be live, and I actually posted one link because that news was so big, and that was about the Hanjin bankruptcy. That's a Korean company, one of the largest shippers in the world. I believe they're the 7th largest. And, just all of a sudden, no notice, they ceased operations. And because of the bankruptcy, there may be some hope in getting a little bit of movement. And Korean Air is a large shareholder of Hanjin, and they are loaning money. So this may not be as disastrous as it was first looking to be. There's $14 billion worth of cargo stranded at sea, along with the crews that only have so much food on board. And then there's the question of getting these ships to port, and there's problems there because, in normal times, you would not necessarily pay immediately, especially with a large company. You'd have an agreement. So now it's, would they unload the ship without having payment first? Would the truckers take these shipments without having payment first? And we're talking about more than 500,000 containers worth of goods that it's either expected in the supply chain very shortly or being put into the distribution centers for the holiday season coming up. And this, I think, is definitely going to have a negative effect on the economy. And if this company can go, you have to wonder. We know transportation's been bad across the board, not just surface shipping, but the land-based component as well, with rail and with trucking. And there's a lot of companies that could be in just as bad a shape that could cease operations at any time. And it gets back to the supply chain. One part of the supply chain goes, and it has effects all over the place. And as we discussed the trucking one last hour, the plant needs like 20 components to grow. And if it's missing one, then the plant doesn't grow correctly or doesn't grow at all. Like I said, this is one that I'm keeping a close eye on, and this could help things get much worse early next year as earnings are announced.
John, I'm looking at the image on your link of just one of these Hanjin container ships. Absolutely massive. And thousands and thousands of containers got to be on this ship. And that's just one ship. And I'm reading some of the quotes that, let's see, for example, let me get down to it. The Korean Shippers Council, which represents more than 60,000 trading companies, said Wednesday its members have not been able to figure out the whereabouts of their freight. When we were manufacturing satellite communications receivers in California in the 1980s, let's say it took 1,000 parts to make a satellite receiver. I was quoted many times back then as, yeah, it takes 1,000 parts to make a receiver, and we have probably 999 at all times, which meant that we were one part short of being able to ship our finished goods. It could have been a power cord that we were missing, or the foam that goes into the shipping box, or it could have been one of those little rubber feet on the bottom, or it could have been the screws that hold the receiver together, or it could have been a capacitor or a resistor or an integrated circuit, or the knob, or the set screw that holds the tuning knob, onto the front panel. So here we're looking at, I don't know how many items, but all of these containers at sea with the just-in-time inventory. Some of these containers have lubricants in them. Some of them have electronics in them. I can just see manufacturing coming to a screeching halt if this continues. Do you see this too, John, or is this just my imagination running wild?
The thing is, we don't know what the effect's going to be. And like I say, if this happens to more companies, then it's going to make things worse faster. We're probably going to see shortages and delays just from this problem. And we'll probably never even know that it was related to it. They'll just say that the item's on back order or something like that.
Today I ordered some batteries, truck batteries for our farm. And I decided to buy several of these truck batteries. I got them at a very, very good price. So I called the warehouse that had them, and I said, I'd like to get 3 of them. And they said, well, great, we'll have them here. You can pick them up next week. And I said, well, that's wonderful. They said, now there's a core charge. And I said, I think the core is $50. It used to be a core charge for a battery be $8. And he said, now look, these are, a size 31 truck battery. And you have to bring in a size 31 truck battery as the core. You can't bring in something smaller, like a large pickup truck battery or a large automobile battery. You've got to bring in a big battery. And what they're saying is the lead is so important that they won't let you bring in a smaller battery as a core for a larger battery that you're buying. Now, it used to be that you could go and all you had to do was bring in a battery. They didn't care whether you brought in a little tiny four-wheeler battery or a little motorcycle battery. If you bought a truck battery, they didn't care. As long as a battery in exchange for a battery is all they wanted. That is less and less becoming the case in my experience. So I just wanted to share that with our class. Now, we had to move a vehicle, John. This is just a side trip. We had in our barn, I'm working on a 2000 Mercedes that has a blown engine. So we're gonna work on that in the next few weeks. And all I had to do was move that, and I couldn't start it because it has a blown engine. So we wanted to just hook up a tow strap and pull it with a tractor out of the barn. Well, I had to unlock the steering column. So you had to have a battery, a good working battery, in order to power the electronics to move the car. So now we have to have a battery in order to tow a vehicle, to get it up on a tow truck or a tow dolly or a trailer or whatever. What I'm saying is electronics have taken over. Now, if you had an old Jeep, 1940s, 50s, 60s Jeep, that was not the case. But now, if you have a new car, you're going to have a battery that's good and charged in order to unlock the electronics that keep the car from moving. Just wanted to share that. So our problems with electricity are big.
I just quickly did a search. It was late 2013. Obama closed the last lead smelter, which was there in Missouri.
Yeah, Doe Run, right down the road from us.
So we now need to recycle as much lead as possible.
Right, and when you fire a shot, a rifle or a pistol bullet, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that lead unless you're firing at a range where you're collecting lead. But typically out on the farm, once that lead's fired or that cartridge is fired, that lead's gone. You're absolutely right, John. And I called Doe Run. I said, hey, I understand what's happening, the EPA and the Obama administration. Would you like us to join in the fight? We'll help you fight it. We'll go on the air right now. I said, no, it's okay. We already cut our deal, so now we're going to shut down. And they did. It's an outrage. What's next?
Spy badge.
Oh.
And having badges that track where you are is nothing new. The first experience I had with it was back in the mid-'80s when I visited some counterparts that worked at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and they had a building where you wore badges, and they knew where you were when you went to the bathroom, stuff like that. But these new badges not only track where you are, they can record everything you say in real time. So
sounds like a cell phone. Sounds like a cell phone that's tracking where we are real time and can be turned on to record. But these you want to have a job with this company, whatever the company may be, here's the badge, and by the way, you have no privacy. So maybe no loud noises in the men's room.
You probably don't want to talk about your boss or talk about company secrets.
What a great guy your boss is. That old saying, many of my bosses, not all of them, but many of them, have that guy get so far on so little, make so much, and stay so long. John, we've got Malcolm in Hawaii. Welcome. Oh, he just disappeared. Okay. Please continue, John. Did I lose you, John? Wow. Okay. John, are you there?
Am I here?
Okay. Yeah. We had Malcolm in Hawaii. I clicked, I went to put him on the air and he disappeared. I don't know where he went, but okay. So we've got this badge and it's tracking our movements. The company will know exactly where we are. It was what, developed with the help of MIT?
Well, like I say, the tracking part's nothing new. It's the being able to record you.
Yeah.
That's the new nasty about this. And I mean, just think about even your private information. You need to call the doctor, or you got a teen that just got into trouble, and your company will now know everything about your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's move on down to the non-GMO GMO. We talked about CRISPR earlier, and this article, first gene-edited meal served up from CRISPR cabbage, and I'll get into the bottom line of this when we get back from the break.
Okay. Captain John Regan's with us, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com. And I wanted to mention that there's some upcoming arcade gun shows, September 17th, Lexington, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, and Denver, Colorado, coming up. September 17th, all three of them. Captain John Regan's with us, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com. I've got a smile on my face, John. I was just talking with Nathan, our engineer, and he said, you guys are, I'm paraphrasing, he said, you guys are kind of like a family. And I asked him why that is. And he says it's because of the values and that we are teaching, we're educators here at USA Prepares. And he's absolutely right. It's not like people just find us and tune in and, and just listen a little bit and they leave. They keep coming back. And I really believe he's right. I believe it is a family, an extended family of our class. And I think that's one of the things that makes us different. And I appreciate everything that you do, John. And I know you work hard to bring these broadcasts every Monday. You work all week to make sure that we have the latest in good and bad news and what to do about it. Please continue.
Well, the bottom line on this CRISPR food is you'll never know that it's modified, because GMO modified food is considered that has foreign DNA in it. But here they've taken the DNA of the food and modified the expression of it, so it's considered part of the original DNA, even though it's modified. So if you're looking for the GMO-free label at the store, it doesn't mean anything where CRISPR is concerned.
Yeah, and our Congress critters have helped protect us from knowing what's in the boxes and the packages and the bottles and the cans that we buy, and also, of course, at restaurants. And we should throw them all out right now. Actually, we should have thrown them out a long time ago. So, class, remember, never re-elect anyone. And that includes Hillary. Never re-elect anyone. And anyone, in my opinion, who supports the Hillary regime or the Barack Obama regime, they're our enemies. They're destroying our way of life. Yeah. What's next?
Well, that's a fine shadow.
That's the next one. Yeah. Next link. Yeah.
And this happened in Russia. There's cameras keeping track of vehicles, and even when I was in Germany back in '82 to '85, they would have the red light cameras or the speeding cameras that would take a picture of you and your license plate if you violated the law. And here in Russia, they've got this video set up for highways, and this guy gets a fine saying that he drove over the solid white line on the highway when clearly his wheels did not cross. However, the shadow of his vehicle did. He's still trying to get that resolved. But it brings up a point with the self-driving cars and everything that's coming. They don't have to change the law to force you into it. I want you to think about when you pull up to an intersection, whether it's a stop sign or a traffic light, how many times do you actually manage to stop before that white line? And when they start putting these cameras in there and issuing fines for crossing the white line, it'll soon become too expensive for you to drive yourself. And your only choice, if you want to get from point A to point B, other than by bicycle, is to have one of these self-driving vehicles.
What a great point, forcing us into it because of the fines. And as you were saying this, I was thinking about traveling this weekend, and we were pulled up to one of those lines, and we stopped before the line. But the operator of the vehicle next to us stopped before the line and creeped up a little bit more, and he's in a hurry. He's waiting for that traffic light to go from red to green, and he crept up past the white line. He was going to get a head start, and he thought that by creeping ahead of it is the best way to do it. It's idiotic. John, I'm really concerned about the technology. There's so much of it that's working against us. I really don't like it. Class, it's activists. It's activists that help guard our freedoms, and I encourage you to start saying no more and becoming an activist, as we are. Captain John Regan, thanks so much for being with us and all your hard work. Above all, honesty and integrity.